This is DrAlvinCom, the business of wisdom, where world leaders and thinkers do come to chat. Want to hear from the extraordinary international best-selling author of The Lego Principle, Building Relationships, Value People, Make Disciples, Change the World, the power of connecting to God and one another. I'd like for this extraordinary best-selling author to share his name, and then tell me something about the ministry that you're doing there overseas.
Well, my name is Joey Bonifacio, and I am a pastor of a rather unique church in Manila, the Philippines. Unique in the sense that we have approximately 91 services all over the city, and we have 50 pastors speaking in these services. It's almost like a faceless church. And I just happen to be one of these men, and the whole reason why the church is growing and has approximately over 60,000 people coming every weekend is because the whole thing is based and founded on discipleship as Jesus taught it. It's rooted in discipleship as relationship, which is what my book's all about.
How does what you do is similar or different than what is done in Korea and other places in that part of the world?
I think the unique thing about Victory or our congregation here is the discipleship is done mainly by lay people. I think the Korean model was rooted mainly in small group prayer ministries. And while we have prayer incorporated, the roots of the growth of Korea, which is phenomenal, which we've visited them and looked at their model, works well because of prayer and rooted in that. Ours started with mainly in discipleship of campus students. A lot of it happened among very young people. It was founded by a very young American missionary who came to the Philippines and started reaching out to very impoverished Filipino students. And out of that sprung this church, and it keeps going. It's Tuesday evening here in the Philippines, and I just left our building, and there's about 600 college kids having a service there today on a Tuesday night. It's because we're running out of weekend services. We only have 15 locations and buildings. We're actually having to start weekday services now because of just the magnitude of the effects of discipleship when the focus is building on relationship and establishing people in Christ and nothing else.
One other question that begs for me to think, what about the concept of Campus Crusade for Christ or Bill Bright? Is any of that influences since you have a lot of young people at college campuses?
I think and Campus Crusade is a great ministry. Obviously, the Campus Crusade is in the Philippines. I think that the basic difference, I guess, is that Campus Crusade is a parachurch organization. We are a church. So when we go and reach campus students, it's not us reaching them as a parachurch ministry, but as a church and leading them into the congregation. That would be my short version of the basic difference between the two.
Okay. Let's go down memory lane. 1988 Lego set. Tell me about what happened back in 1988, sir.
Well, I bought my first Lego, my two sets for my two sons who at the time were little boys, and I stashed it in my home, and that Lego has become a part of our home. But the revelation of Lego for me really happened when I started seeing different colors, different shapes, different sizes, and coming out of different boxes. And yet each one was made and designed to do one thing, connect to the top and connect to the bottom. And that revelation of the simplicity of connecting to God and connecting to others and having the ability to create shapes can potentially shape the world if we go back to the fundamentals of Christianity, which is to love God and love one another. And I think the simplicity of the gospel, that it really boils down to empowering people. It's not about what color you are, what shape you are, or how even when you look at Lego pieces, they have different capacities to connect. Some can connect with 12, some can connect with 10, some can connect with 5, some can connect with 1. The universal thing is not how many they connect to. The universal thing is that everyone has the capacity to connect to God at the top and connect to the bottom and others. And if you can do that, you can pretty much shape the world.
Very powerful concept. Let's talk about a carpenter. This carpenter back in 1924. I really love the fact that you gave us a lot of background information. Tell me about Lego, A Love Story.
Oh, the Lego love story is many people don't know this, but I was doing a research on Lego, and the book basically talks about 14 discipleship lessons we can learn from Lego. As such, I had to research the history, the background of Lego, the founder of Lego, only to find out, pleasantly find out, that Ole Christensen, who is the founder of Lego, was a staunch Christian. In fact, in the early days of his company's history, they would have a small prayer meeting before they started working. I found out also that he had gone through several very trying moments in his life. He lost his wife, his factory burned down, and Lego Love Story, which is one of the books that I researched, literally mentions that his being a devout Christian was what allowed him to weather the storms, and how Lego, which is now an 80-year-old company, has succeeded and has gone down 3 generations. And so these principles were obviously Christian principles. And so some of the research I've done based on the books that I've read about Lego were very interesting, but at the heart of it is the idea of learning to connect to God and one another on universal principles such as trust, love, and learning how to forgive. And these are some of the things that Lego represents. A Lego piece connects to the other one because there is a bond, an ability to trust each other. A Lego piece is very forgiving. If something goes wrong, you can detach each other and then at some point reconnect whenever that time comes. So it's a lot of, the more I read about the story of Lego, it became a good mnemonic device to tell us about Christianity. Jesus did that. He used everyday stuff. And the other thing I probably want to say about Lego is the fact that Legos are toys and they're very enjoyable. And there's a system to Lego. The reason why Lego works is because it's a system of play, if you may. So a lot of those in the book, every chapter ends with a Lego lesson that we can pick up on discipleship and relationship.
Well, let's look at the first one, because I had my finger on page number 13, and you say Christians commonly say Christianity is not a religion, it is a relationship, and yet all too often behave otherwise. Tell me about, just like Lego, the first lesson.
Well, as I said, I mean, it's about relationship. You think about Jesus' words: "The world will know that you're truly my disciples, not because of the books you read or the denomination you belong to. The world will know that you're truly my disciples or my followers by the way you love one another." And so the essence of discipleship is a relationship. It's about loving God and loving others. And I make the point, if you're speaking about chapter 1, where Jesus was a carpenter's son, and his first disciples were fishermen. There's nothing complicated about this. Somehow we managed to make it more complex than it is. And I also make the point, as you're referring to the first chapter of the book, that discipleship, as Bill Hull, who is a proponent of discipleship, mentioned in his own book, that the word discipleship is composed of 2 words. The word disciple, which comes from the Greek word mathetes, which is a follower, and the word ship, which is an Old English word which means to be contained in a journey. And so discipleship is this idea that Jesus was teaching us of how to follow God in a relationship with him, in a journey of faith with him and with other believers. And so that's the couching of the story, if you may, of the book, where discipleship is relationship, and Lego is a great reminder, a great picture of how that works.
In the next chapter, you have a very interesting topic and heading: Discipleship, 7-Eleven, and Starbucks. What is that all about, sir?
Well, I was explaining the whole concept of how sometimes with churches, I explain in that chapter how sometimes with churches it's not clear what the business is. And you go to a certain entity or a certain company like Starbucks, there is no other expectation other than coffee. And the reason why is because every shelf that you see in Starbucks, although the main business of Starbucks as as we know it, is a third place that people can go to. At the end of the day, the business is about coffee, and it revolves around coffee, and everything about it is coffee. You go in there, you smell the coffee, you drink the coffee. The shelves are full of stuff about coffee. Coffee is the business. And I was referring to how at 7-Eleven you also find coffee in the shelf, but it's only one of the things in the shelf. It's not the main thing. And the difference is because the one word, the main business thrust of Starbucks is coffee, and the main one word or business of 7-Eleven is convenience. They're two different things. And so what happens with churches is you've got churches that have discipleship as one of the things on their shelves and not the only thing that they do. In other words, you can serve the poor and you can do all the other things in the context of helping people follow Jesus and help them cause others to follow Jesus as disciples as well. That was the whole essence of the illustration between Starbucks and 7-Eleven.
Let's look at another chapter here before you go. You deal with the chapter of relationships in section number 2, and then you give a very touching story concerning your youngest son, Joshua. Why did you decide to put personal stories and then give us the lesson of relationships?
I believe the overarching theme of life is relationships. I believe there's no point of staying on earth if not for relationships. I believe that at the end of the day, Jesus and his words were all about relationship. I believe that when Jesus told us to remember him every time we partake of a meal, it was to remember our relationship with him. I define relationship as trusting God. I define relationship as loving one another. I define relationship as the ability to learn to live a lifestyle of forgiveness. That's the way I relate with my wife and children. That's the way I can only relate to them in that way as I relate to God. My relationship with God in matters of learning to trust him, learning to love him, learning of his trust and his love and his mercy and forgiveness is what allows me and gives me the same ability to do that to my wife and children and ultimately to the people I reach out to and disciple. Imagine empowering an entire community, an entire nation. This is what I was trying to say a little bit about our church. Our church is wired this way. The reason why it's growing is because our people understand this relationship in Christ. It's not just a system. It's not just a process. It's a heartbeat. And that's why relationship, I believe, is the way to go. And the idea of Lego and enjoying relationships is, as I've said in one of the parts of the book, God did not make us on the first day, not on the second day, not on the third day, not on the fourth, not on the fifth. God made us on the sixth day. Because God's intent was when we woke up on the seventh day, the first thing we would see was not God working, but God resting and enjoying a relationship with us. I believe that from day one to the very end of my life, life is all about having a relationship with God and with others.
We're talking about the power of connecting to God and one another, build relationships, value people, make disciples, truly change the world. Give me a final thought. Tell me how to get a copy of this book. Let me know about any website, Facebook, etc., to be a part of your wonderful world.
Well, the book was published in the United States by Charisma, and I really just want to thank them for doing that for me. I'm a Filipino pastor, Filipino author, and to be given that opportunity is huge. The book is now currently available at Amazon. It is also available at Barnes & Noble, and I believe Books A Million and other fine bookstores. I do have a website of my own. It's called joeybonifacio.com, and most of it is just life stories of people I encounter in relationships. I guess that's it. You can also log on to Charisma's website and find out more about where you can access it in the United States.
Well, thank you so very much for sharing your heart and your passion. Please give my regards to your wonderful wife and 3 sons. This will be featured at DrAlvinCom, the website, DrAlvin.com on Facebook, and also I will tweet this at Dr. Alvin Jones. And you continue to have a remarkable and amazing day, sir, okay?
Thank you so much, Alvin.